Let's set the stage. It's Thanksgiving night, 1976, in San Francisco's Winterland Ballroom. The band is throwing the greatest farewell party rock and roll has ever seen. Legends are on the card. Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Eric Clapton, Muddy Waters, Van Morrison, and others, all on one stage. Martin Scorsese is rolling the camera, and just 2 years later, that film becomes one of the most celebrated concert documents in history. There's just one problem. Levon Helm, the man whose voice many consider is the band, thinks it's a lie, that Robertson used it to rewrite history, to crown himself the genius and push everyone else to the side. Helm never forgave him. They never reconciled. But whatever truth lived behind the scenes, what was captured on that stage Thanksgiving night became immortal in the archives of music history. This is The Last Waltz. Welcome to Album Archives, the vault of music history, where we dive into the top 300 albums of all time as voted on by fans of the Music Rewind podcast. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're cracking open number 255, The Last Waltz, by the band. Released in April 1978 as a triple live album and the soundtrack to Scorsese's legendary concert film, this 2-hour-plus epic documents their final concert on November 25, 1976. The core lineup, Robbie Robertson on guitar, Levon Helm on drums and vocals, Rick Danko on bass and vocals, Richard Manuel on keys and vocals, and Garth Hudson on, well, everything else. Plus, one of the greatest all-star guest lists ever assembled. It's a farewell that feels like a homecoming for American roots music. So grab your headphones, raise a glass, and let's step into the warmth and magic of The Last Waltz. By 1976, the band had been through it all. They cut their teeth in the early 60s as the Hawks, backing Ronnie Hawkins night after night, learning to play tight, loud, and fearless. That road-hardened lineup later became Bob Dylan's backing crew through his controversial Electric era and those mythic basement tape sessions in Woodstock. From there, they broke out on their own with music from Big Pink in 1968, followed by the self-titled masterpiece in 1969, covered in our previous episode. They toured relentlessly, battled burnout, and the road was wearing them down. Creative tensions, the endless grind, drugs, all of it. So Robbie Robertson proposed one last show, a Thanksgiving concert at their spiritual home in the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco. Bill Graham promoted it lavishly, Scorsese brought the cameras, and Robertson didn't just call up musician friends, he called in legends. To anchor the night musically, he even brought in Allen Toussaint, the great New Orleans composer, arranger, and pianist behind some of the most soulful records ever made. He was brought in specifically to arrange and conduct the horn section. Toussaint's fingerprints on that brass give the concert a richness and authority you don't always hear discussed, but you absolutely feel it. It elevated the whole evening from a rock farewell into something that felt genuinely orchestral. Final result? A night of pure joy with performances that still give me chills decades later. On that note, the album opens with the orchestral theme from The Last Waltz. Immediately setting a cinematic tone, it feels less like a concert and more like the opening credits to a film. From there, it's straight into the classics, up on Cripple Creek with Levon Helm's infectious drawl and that funky, loose limb groove, The Shape I'm In roaring with nervous energy, and It Makes No Difference, which gave me my favorite moment of the band by themselves. No guests, no spectacle, just music.
And the sun don't shine anymore.
The moment Garth Hudson breaks out that tiny saxophone, you hear the crowd react in real time. Rick Danko's melancholy vocal is absolutely devastating, perfectly matched by the dueling solos of Robertson's guitar and Hudson's sax. It's heartbreak, captured live, and it's unforgettable. Early highlights are everywhere as the guests roll in. Ronnie Hawkins barrels through with Who Do You Love like it's still 1963, reminding everyone where this band actually came from. Neil Young delivers a fragile, haunting Helpless, and if you listen closely, that's Joni Mitchell off stage, quietly singing backup, adding an almost ghostly harmony that makes the moment feel even more intimate.
Helpless, helpless, helpless.
And when Muddy Waters takes the stage later for Manish Boy, backed by Paul Butterfield's blistering harmonica, it's pure Chicago blues royalty. Raw, authoritative, and utterly commanding.
Man, I'm a natural born lover's man. Man, I'm a rolling stone.
As the night builds, the emotional peaks hit harder. Stage fright crackles with tension. The Wait becomes a full-blown communal hymn alongside the Staples sisters. Ophelia swings with joy. Then comes one of my favorite moments of the entire album, Van Morrison's Caravan. Man, his energy is completely off the charts. Leaping, shouting, pushing the band forward. It's one of those rare moments where the live version doesn't just equal the original studio take, it completely blows it out of the water.
Turn it up now.
There's also Eric Clapton joining for Further On Up the Road. In one of rock's great unplanned moments, his guitar string snaps mid-opening solo. You can actually hear him shout, "Robbie!" And without missing a beat, Robertson steps in and finishes the solo like it was choreographed. Instinct, trust, and musicianship at the highest level. Two other performances that don't always get the attention they deserve. Evangeline with Emmylou Harris is pure grace. Her harmony lifts the song into something almost spiritual. And Such a Night with Dr. John, it brings a completely different energy. Swaggering and steeped in New Orleans funk, the two of them clearly feeding off the band in completely different directions. Together, they show the full range of what this night could hold. The band's own songs still land the deepest. Richard Manuel's The Well is a quiet gut punch, his voice worn and weathered, carrying the kind of aching vulnerability that only comes from a man who has lived every word. It's one of the most unguarded moments in the entire album, and a reminder that Manuel was one of the most emotionally raw singers rock ever produced. And in my opinion, it is a tragedy itself that his performances were not highlighted more in the actual concert film.
I took my bucket down to the well. Desert woman, sweet mystery. She let the rope fall down in the well like it was meant to be.
And then there's The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. What a performance. Levon delivers on what still stands as one of his defining moments in rock history. His voice carrying a weight that feels earned, not performed. In a night packed with legends, this is the moment that hits deepest and lingers longest. It all culminates with I Shall Be Released. Dylan on stage with the band, all the night's guests surrounding them, voices blending as the night finally closes. Ringo, Ronnie Wood, Bob Dylan, Dr. John, Neil Young, Neil Diamond, Muddy Waters, Ronnie Hawkins, Joni Mitchell, Eric Clapton, and I'm probably forgetting a few. It's not just a finale, it's a benediction. Now thematically, The Last Waltz is a love letter to American music. From Canada down to New Orleans, San Francisco to Big Pink, its roots in blues, gospel, and folk, and a meditation on endings. Legacy, friendship, and knowing when to walk away. At over 2 hours across 3 LPs, it's expansive, yet still intimate, with no filler. Every guest adds something essential, and the production is pristine, clear, dynamic, full of that room's energy. You feel the Winterland in every track. Let's put that whole era in context. By 1976, rock was shifting. Punk was exploding, disco ruled the charts, and arena rock dominated. The Last Waltz arrived harkening back to the 60s spirit, communal, rootsy, and authentic. When Scorsese released the film and album in 1978, classic rock radio was rising, and this became part of how that generation preserved its own mythology. In a time of excess, it felt like a graceful exit. It peaked at number 16 on the Billboard charts, but its real impact was never going to be measured in chart positions. It would be measured in its legacy. Why does The Last Waltz endure? Because it's more than a live album. It's a document of a band at their peak, saying goodbye on their own terms, surrounded by everyone who mattered to them. The performances are flawless, the guests legendary, the emotion real. Fans still debate the setlist differences between the album and the film, and if you find an old enough copy of the film on DVD or VHS for you youngsters, you might catch a few things that have since been seen carries weight and shadow in equal measure. Richard Manuel, whose fragile voice holds some of the album's most devastating moments, died by suicide in 1986 in a Florida hotel room, ironically during an attempted band reunion tour. He was 42. Rick Danko followed in 1999 after health struggles. Sadly, the wound between Levon Helm and Robbie Robertson never healed. Helm spent decades publicly contesting the songwriting credits in the film's narrative, and when Helm died in 2012, they had still never made peace. Robertson himself passed in 2023. Garth Hudson, the last original member, followed in January 2025. All five are gone now. But what they left behind feels immortal. For me, this album is deeply personal. One my music nerd friends and I never stopped dissecting, debating favorite performances, arguing the ups and downs of guest moments, and every Thanksgiving, without fail, friends and family gather to watch the concert. It's become tradition. The Last Waltz was more than a farewell. It's the gold standard for how to leave the stage with grace, gratitude, and heart.
It's a last waltz. A last waltz with you.
If you've never experienced The Last Waltz front to back, make it your next listen. Then double down and watch the film. It's a journey through the rock and roll songbook, bringing together voices from America, Canada, England, Ireland, and the musical heartlands of Chicago, New Orleans, Brooklyn, and the Mississippi Delta. A night of magic and proof that sometimes the last dance is the sweetest. Put it on, turn it up, and let it take you back to Winterland in '76. I've got a link in the show notes if this one isn't in your collection yet. That's it for this edition of Album Archives, the vault of music history. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, or leave a review wherever you listen. Next up is number 254, Use Your Illusion 2 by Guns N' Roses. Check out musicrewindpodcast.com/album archives to see where we're at and where we're headed. If there's an album that shaped your life that didn't make it to the top 300, you can now dedicate an episode of Album Archives to it. Every album has a story, and this is how you tell yours. Link in the show notes. And don't forget, early episodes are also available on Patreon and Apple subscriptions. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time.
A podcast from the Sidereal Media Group. Back to you, anchors.